Greetings and welcome everyone to the Discovery Freelancer Mod 2018 Let's Play, starring yours truly, Spazzy Dragon aka Syndromes. Now if you're a regular watcher on my channel, you probably know that I tend to do at least one Let's Play every single year of my participation in the Discovery Freelancer community. And you know probably for the fact that the one that I made last year wasn't really finished, and there's a slew of reasons for that, but those reasons are not going to surface again this year, and this year we are going to start off with explaining what this mod is about, because this is something that a lot of you pointed out that I don't actually do. The Discovery Freelancer mod is a roleplay centric mod specifically tailored for the Discovery Freelancer roleplay community. And by that what that means, this is a online real-time roleplay centric mod. I am actually working on a video that explains the concept to players who have never had to deal with this sort of experience, but the easiest way that I can sort of draw parallels to other games is that the interaction between you and other players is situated in a roleplay environment, and it is very simple to single-player RPG games which use a dialogue system. So it's your Witcher 3s, your Skyrims, or really any of the Elder Scrolls series. It's your Fallout series. Every single game that has some sort of dialogue tree present where you listen to an NPC, what they have to say, then you choose your requests or answers or questions, and then the game progresses depending on what you picked. The same idea applies to an online in real-time roleplay environment. It's just instead of NPCs, you talk with other players, and it is very addictive and it's very fun, mostly because this is essentially a single-player roleplay experience that never repeats itself. You do not finish this game, and you can have these interactions over and over, and, well, you win some, you lose some. Who knows, maybe you are going to be the space badass pirate of the century, or you might end up looking down someone's big gun. It all depends. Now the cool thing about Discovery Freelancer is the fact that this is built on a very old game. Freelancer came out in 2003, which means that you can run this thing on pretty much anything. If you are looking for a very low-spec game that you can play on your laptop that has either an Intel Atom series processor or even something worse, this game is just one of those things you can do, especially if you're looking for a more multiplayer-oriented thing. As usual, I will have the links down in the doobly-doo, where you can actually get the game and the mod, but for now, let's actually start from the very bare basics. Because one of the problems that we are facing with the Discovery Freelancer mod is the fact that it doesn't have the single player anymore. When you install the mod over the original game, you will quickly find it removes the single player aspect due to some mechanics reasons that I cannot just go into detail right now, but essentially by removing the single player game and turning it into a sandbox, you already start on the main planet, you're level 13, and by using commands such as the cache command, you can move around and do whatever you like. But the problem with this is the fact that it removes the tutorial. And that is somewhat of a inconvenience, especially if you've never played Freelancer before. Now, as you might already know from the idea of a roleplay environment, knowing the game's lore is somewhat required. So if you've never played Freelancer before, but you want to get into Discovery Freelancer, but you can't really bother playing a really old game, especially where voice acting was not really the best, I highly suggest you stick to Let's Plays on YouTube. There's a lot of full HD, 1080p recorded Let's Plays of people playing Freelancer through all the cutscenes, all the story processes. And again, the game is short, so you'll be done much quicker than we are, than this series. At least I hope so. Anyway, I'm going to start off with giving you a couple of tips regarding the options. If you install Discovery correctly, it is going to give you the chance to pick a modern resolution such as 1080 by 32 color depth, and the only thing that you really need to worry about here is going into the controls. The problem is, since Discovery Freelancer it is a mod, there's a couple of things it cannot change when you install it over your regular Freelancer installation, and one of them is regarding your ship controls. The ones that you currently see here, especially for the secondary option, those are tailored for my specific flight style, so don't really worry about that. The only thing you have to actually assign here is the W and S keys for strafe up and strafe down. The reason for that is that Discovery adds a lot of new ship types, those of which are much heavier and slower than their vanilla counterparts. And so having a vertical strafe in a 3D environment is something you want to have. Anyway, as already said, this is a multiplayer focused mod, so we are going to go into the multiplayer section. It is going to give us the ESRB game rating notice. Again, this is 2003 technically speaking, so this is pretty new at the time. And one more thing, that if you launch it for the very first time, you're actually going to get a pop-up regarding your key, or the account key that is going to be generated for your PC. That account key you can actually find in your Discovery launcher, and you can export and backup that thing, because anyone can play Discovery Freelancer. You don't have to register on our forums to get access to the server. You don't have to do that. But in retrospect, that is probably a bad idea, because you have to manually back up your accounts. There's going to be a separate video of how to do that a little bit later. But for now, let's say that yes, we do agree. And now we're going to pick either or internet or LAN. It doesn't matter. The server is going to pop up regardless of which one you pick. So I'm just going to click internet. And the only server you are going to usually see is the Discovery Freelancer RP 24/7 official server. It is kind of late, so there's not really a lot of people online right now, so we are just going to jump into the ship creator. Now, it says select a character, but that is slightly mistaken, because we're not really selecting a character, we're selecting a ship to fly. And we are going to create our character, and we're going to flesh out our character with which we're going to interact with the other players in the server a little bit later as we go on, because right now we're just going to get established of the very bare basics. I'm going to talk about your GUI, the controls, etc. So the first things we're going to do is select a completely new ship. This is your model. You cannot rotate because 2003 game. But welcome to Freelancer. Yeah, this is Edison Trent. This is the protagonist from the single player. Obviously, you're meant to ignore this. This is not your character. Your character is whoever the hell you want it to be. And the cool thing about roleplay is that you can project either yourself on your character and kind of act in the roleplay environment as if you were there, or maybe you are imagining some sort of character that is completely opposite from you. Maybe you want to be the bad guy, or maybe you want to be the good guy, depending on the type of person you are in real life. But yeah, at this point we need to enter the name. Now, the name that you're entering in this screen is essentially the name that other players are going to see you and recognize you in-game. And the thing... Yes, Trent, I know you're bored. Shut up. You're not talking, but you know. The idea here is that this name needs to fit the roleplay environment, and there's generally two ways you can do this. Either you take a regular name-surname approach, so for example, I suddenly went into stereotypical Chinese mode, I don't know why. Yonki, Brian Yonki, or something like that. Notice that I put a dot in the middle, because Freelancer doesn't like space key. It gives this underscore thing that I don't really like how it looks. I prefer a dot, and that's how usually players, you know, do this sort of thing. The other way you can name your characters is name the ship itself, so you're actually displaying the ship's call sign and not the character name and surname that is actually piloting it. This is a little bit more trickier. Mostly because it is very tempting for new players to put in some sort of widely known names, such as the Millennium Falcon or something along those lines. But if you take a look at the server rules, which, by the way, you have to do it before you join the server, because there's a couple of things you need to, check up on. That is against the server rules. This is a freelancer roleplay environment. We need to make sure that we conform to this sort of setting, this lore, and obviously nothing from Star Wars really has any... I need to adjust my glasses, just give me a moment. There we go. There's no reason to bring in anything from the Star Wars franchise, from Battlestar Galactica, shout out to all the CR, and etc, etc. So, let's go with Brian Yoki, and we are just going to press create, and the character is going to appear here on the character screen. Now the cool thing about this is that you can have up to 7 different characters, and we are going to delve into this particular mechanic a little bit later when we start creating specific characters for, say, trading, mining, PvP, PvE, etc. So for now we are just going to start off with Brian Yoki here. He's going to start off with a stargazer in a place called the Pennsylvania system. And welcome to planet Erie. I'm just going to wait until that jingle passes. And we are greeted briefly with the welcoming screen. Don't worry if you missed it, you can actually press the Y key, like so, and open up the chat window. So, welcome to Discovery Freelancer 24/7 Roleplay Server. To see the past messages and the player list, press Y. We just did that. To type messages and commands, press Enter. We are going to do that a little bit later. To learn about useful features, enter Help. And then it reminds you this is a roleplay server. Players are required by the server rules to roleplay here. The year is 825 after settlement, 25 years after the events of Freelancer. So essentially, the Discovery mod takes us into a time which is 25 years after the events of the single-player storyline. Now, I'm not going to spoil it. Maybe I should, because if you're watching this Let's Play right now and you haven't watched the single-player Let's Play yet, then you probably should anyway. But yeah, the bad guy was defeated. How's that for a spoiler? Yes, yes, and yes. Anyway, welcome to your starting planet. That little dinky little thing in front of you, that is your starting ship. And we are going to start off this Let's Play by talking about the interaction of the GUI. Because that's one of the things that the game never really describes that well. And I don't know why. But yeah. Up here at the top you have your selection bar. And you can actually see that there's quite a few things to work with. Every single of these icons you can hover over and it is going to tell you exactly what it does. So for example, if we hover over the commodity trader, it's going to say the commodity trader is the place to buy and sell different goods from all over the galaxy. A tad misleading considering it's only going to show the ones that are sold on this particular planet and on this particular starport. Not that there's multiple ones on multiple planets, but well, you know what I mean, hopefully. When you start off, when you log into your character, you're always going to start off on the launch pad. This is where, if you want, you can launch straight into space. Now, we are not going to do that just yet. We're going to go through all of these things first, and then we are going to quickly go over your character menu as well. So, our first stop is the bar, and for the sake of cinematic effects, I usually have these turned off, but I'm going to enable transition scripts. And actually, after doing that, let's go to the bar, and let's see. Welcome to the bar. So, this section of the station, or planet, or whatever you're docked at. Some bases might not have this section, but most planets and stations do. The reason why this thing exists has to do with missions. Mostly missions, also news and information regarding lore. character reputation sheets. I'm going to talk about the reputation mechanic a little bit later, and of course also random trivia. As you can see, there's a lot of NPCs just sitting around here or standing around here, all perfectly silent, and depending on who I hover over, it is going to change my mouse cursor into something different. As you can see, these are empty speech bubbles right now. So this means that the current NPC, it doesn't have anything they can offer me in terms of missions, bribes, information, or anything else. Now the cool thing is that you can usually look and see who this NPC belongs to. So for example, this lady over here, she is Sarah Paulin. That's an interesting cameo. And she belongs to the Liberty Security Force faction. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the factions a little bit later. So, if an NPC doesn't have anything to tell us, if you click on it, this is what happens.
Hello, may I help you?
Hey, what you got?
First time here, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
Well, I work for the Liberty Security Force. We have a presence on this base thanks to our strategic alliance with its owners. May I please see your card? I'd help you, but it's just not possible.
So, in other words, we are currently not friendly enough with the station to actually access many of its features. As we gain reputation, these NPCs will start talking, give us hints, chances to learn some sort of information, and so on and so forth. The bartender usually always has something for us, because, again, that's the bartender's job. And also, if I'm not mistaken, we are going to be kicked from the server for base idling in a couple of minutes, so I don't want to do that. I'm going to select the new server function, and I'm going to relog to the server in order to reset that timer, because I don't want it to boot me while I'm in a scene or during some sort of explanation. Now, something to note, every single time you are going to enter this place, the NPCs might get shuffled around a little bit, so let's quickly see if any of these NPCs have something to tell us. No, still nothing, but what about the bartender?
Good day, my friend. So, what may I get for you?
What I need is some info. You got anything?
New here, stranger?
Uh-huh.
A Liberty planet. Looks like your rep could use a little attention. Interested?
I'm interested. Go on.
And so, this is where you get a bribe. When you hover over an NPC, and your cursor turns into a little dollar sign, this means that this NPC has a bribe for you. Now, the reason why you want to get bribes is because sometimes you can purchase the best gear for that specific faction only because you have the highest rep with them. It also helps if you are, say, hostile to one faction and you want to get better reputation. So, since we are on a Liberty Police planet, it is going to offer us a sorry about that, a Liberty Police bribe. It's also going to tell us that you know that groups like Liberty Rogues, Outcast, and the Order might look down on our little transaction. And what he means is they are definitely going to look down at this transaction, and they are going to actually cost us reputation with these factions. Now the problem is this costs 500,000 credits. Bribes are not cheap, and that's why they're bribes. And so we'll have to decline this.
No way. Sorry.
Take care, Mr. Trent.
Well, don't worry, we can return to this guy a little bit later. And one of the ways we can actually make money in order to grab this bribe is by doing missions. We're just going to grab a mission right now. You can go to the jarboard like I did just now, and you will see a lot of missions. I am currently rank 14, which means that I need to take somewhat the same difficulty. As you can see, there's actually very high-paying missions right here. This is for 1.2 million credits, but you will notice that the difficulty is 30. That's 2 times over my current rank. The only problem here is that rank is not exactly directly connected to the difficulty of the mission, but, well, I guess the easiest way you can do this is simply go into missions, remember the difficulty rating for them, and sort of figure out how difficult they are to you. This number that is shown here is literally just there for you to know. It has nothing to do with your character's rank. So, in order to get my feet wet, so to speak, I'm going to start off with something like this. Yes. This is a nice little mission. It's a difficulty 16, and we are just going to accept the mission. And it's going to prompt us to launch to space, but we are not yet going to do that. Instead, we're going to go to the commodity trader, where we can, quote, sell different goods from all over the galaxy. I must admit that these look very nice. Hey look, this person who belongs to Universal Shipping wants to give us a bribe. Let's take a look.
Hey, you looking for something?
Have anything for me?
It's your first time here, isn't it?
Yeah, guess so.
Oh, well I work for Universal Shipping. We don't really run this place, but we have an understanding with the people who do. You know, your rep could use a little fixing, for a small fee.
Alright, go on.
And this guy is actually going to offer us a reputation for the Universal Shipping, which, again, is a little bit pricey, and so we'll have to decline.
I think I'm staying away from this one.
Good journey, Mr. Trent.
But, oh, this guy is very... So let's talk to this guy. Trading in Discovery Freelancer is one of the ways you need to make money. Since this is a roleplay environment and you interact with other players, you will need to create characters and ships for those characters. And one of the ways to do that is simply by hauling cargo around. You purchase cargo from somewhere where it sells for cheap, and you bring it somewhere where it sells for high. That's how trading works, and that is what we're going to do. When you click on this icon, it is going to show you this pop-up window. In the center, it is going to give you all of the information that you need to know. Quote, if you want to buy a commodity, select it in my list, set the quantity you want to buy, and click the buy button. If you want to sell a commodity, select it in your list, the one on the left, set the quality that you want to sell, and click the sell button. So, there is a couple of things in our cargo hold that have been added by the server administration when you create a new character. One of these things is the Pilot's Guidebook. I highly recommend that this thing is not sold because it kind of helps you when you don't know something. The History of Sirius is another thing you could sell if you want to, but this is just a neat little trivia that you might as well keep. I'm going to sell it. And of course we have the Discovery Freelancer roleplay rules. It should be noted that both of these items exist out of roleplay, or at least they're meant to be. And this item simply describes all of the Freelancer server rules the same way that they are described in the forums. Now, since you are a very good person, you already read the server rules, I'm going to sell them. But that is pretty much the gist of it. The trading thankfully features a interesting little mechanic that allows you to kind of gauge the prices. The prices you can see on the right side here have these little blocks next to them. If the block is green, it means that out of all of the bases in the game, this base actually sells it for very cheap, and you can actually bring it to planets that, or bases, or installations in general that purchase it for very high. Now, at the same time, the yellow means that this station sells it at a price which most stations actually sell it. So, the same for the red ones, which means that it's completely useless to buy food rations, for example, on this base, because this is the base you bring food rations to from other places. And so it is going to be showing up as red. Lastly, we are going to visit the equipment dealer. We're not going to go to the last one just yet. We are instead going to take a look at our ship, finally, because this, again, is a spaceship game, and we're going to take a look at how we can actually upgrade it. Your ship has guns and other types of hardpoints. Everything that you have on your ship can be seen on this side of the window, and just like with the commodity dealer, everything that you want to buy and mount on your ship is shown on the right. Our ship is small. It's a small ship, and it is tiny, and so it is going to have a very limited amount of hardpoints. These are the sections of your ship. We're going to start off with the external weapons, and you can see that we have 4 advanced flashpoints. We also have a cruise disruptor, a mine dropper, and a countermeasure dropper, which are currently vacant. Guns are used to shoot people with, usually bad people. And yeah, that's about it for the guns. There are multiple classes of guns. Many ships have different kinds of guns. There are also turrets, which are like guns, but better. And I'm going to probably be explaining this a lot more in detail a little bit later. The cruise disruptor slot is a specified piece of equipment that also, by the way, for some reason, acts as a missile mounting point. We can actually buy a missile if we had the credits for that. But the purpose of the cruise disruptor is to prevent ships from fleeing. You can understand that if you shoot someone and things aren't going their way, one of the things they can potentially do is try to run away, so the cruise disruptor is going to prevent them from doing that. The mine layer device is pretty self-explanatory. You press the button, you drop a big payload, and things go boom when it gets hit. Now, the countermeasure dropper is actually a very important piece of equipment, especially if you're flying something this small. And there you go, you'll be kicked for base idling. This is very bad because we just lost our mission, so we're just going to jump right back in. Hopefully it's not going to penalize us. Usually the penalty for... still nothing. Usually the penalty for losing a mission like this is simply losing some reputation with the faction that gave you the mission. But hopefully this time it's not going to be big. Oh, looks like it actually is going to bring us to the New York system, but that's okay. Anyways, so much for this section. Next is your ammo. As already noted, there are things like missiles and mines and countermeasure droppers. All of these things take ammo, and this is where you buy your ammo. As you can see, there's a lot of types of ammo. Currently, we're not using anything that consumes ammo, so everything is grayed out. Once you do have something that uses ammo, it is actually going to be shown at the very top of this window. Everything's going to be fine. Next up is our external equipment. In our case, that is going to be a shield, which is a very dinky shield, which we will need to upgrade as soon as we can, and we also have a thruster. Now, the thruster is basically a turbo for a ship. You press a button and your ship goes zippity zoop zoop very fast, and the better your thruster is, the less energy drain it actually uses on your ship. And last but not least, no, certainly not but least, you have the internal equipment. This is where your scanner resides. I'm going to talk about the scanner mechanics in a moment, and this is also where your ID resides. I'm also going to talk about that in a little bit. Nanobots and shield batteries are basically your healing items. You press the button and your ship is going to be repaired for a certain amount. Every single ship has a maximum capacity of these things, so you cannot really repair yourself mid-combat indefinitely. When you lose all of your nanobots and shield batteries, if your ship is going to take enough beating, it is going to be destroyed. Now, the cool thing about death in Freelancer is that you technically don't lose a lot of stuff. The only thing that you lose when your ship is destroyed is any unmounted equipment. Now, what do I mean by unmounted? These items, all of them, most of them, have these little blocks next to them. This indicates that they are mounted. Now, you can actually see the pop-up. It currently says, item is mounted. Now, if we would press on it, it is going to unmount the item, it is going to show that the item is unmounted, and this slot is going to free, for example, if we wanted to purchase a new thruster, which we really don't have, but this is just an example of how we could do this. Now we have two thrusters. If we die, this one is dropped. So, in order to prevent that, we're going to sell it. We just lost a little bit credits, but that is okay. Last and but not least, we do have the ship dealer, but I don't want to go into it just yet. This is going to conclude our first episode for the Discovery Freelancer Let's Play. Stick around to part 2, where we finally actually go into space and shoot some bad guys. This was Spazzy Dragon, aka Syndromes. Fly safe.